What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel and welcome to my final individual Week 4 preview and prediction for this week of college football action. And let's take you to the battle for the Iron Skillet. This year, it's in Dallas, Texas. Two schools that are separated by maybe only an hour's drive. It's the TCU Horned Frogs, the SMU Mustangs. Who is going to walk away with the Iron Skillet this season? Usually always a very entertaining and fun game between these two bitter rivals, and I'll tell you everything you need to know about the Frogs and about the Mustangs here in just a little bit. But before I do that, well, I want to again, just thank you guys for all the love and support this channel has seen as of late, especially as we continue to delve on in to the college football season. And hey, if you are as big of a college football nerd as I am, you got to hit the subscribe button, you got to ring the bell so you know whenever I upload here on my channel. And I really want to thank you for taking time out of, I'm sure, your busy day to watch this video. It really does help support me in more ways you can even imagine, and continue to like, comment, share, and anything else you may be willing and able to do to help support me on this channel. But if you want to support me outside of YouTube, you want to know what else I got going on in life? Hey, go give me a follow on Twitter at TailgateNate29. I post a lot about my life as a sports media student and all the content I create otherwise, and I would really appreciate a follow over there. Whatever you guys may be willing and able to do, I'd greatly appreciate. And now let's dive on in to this thrilling matchup from Dallas, Texas. I really do believe that this is going to be a very fun game here. The battle for the Iron Skillet usually is, and the two bitter rivals are going at it again this week. How do we do preview predictions here on my channel? Well, I'm glad you asked. First, we're going to take, I shouldn't say first. I seem to have been doing that today. But we are going to be taking a look at some keys to the game when each team possesses the football. So now, I'll get to the first part. First, we'll look at the Horned Frogs offense versus this SMU Mustangs defense, and then we'll flip it and look at what the Ponies do offensively against this TCU defense at the end of the video. I'll sort of just give you my final thoughts, how I think this game is going to play out, and I'll give you my final prediction and a score as well for how I think this game is shaping out. Let's dive on into this one. TCU SMU is going to be a fun one from Dallas, won't it? All right, let's dive on in first to what happens when the TCU Horned Frogs have the football. And, I mean, there is one guy that you have to mention when you are talking about TCU's offense, and that is none other than the quarterback in Josh Hoover. He has been just simply sensational for the Horned Frogs so far this season. 1,022 yards, 8 touchdowns without an interception so far this season. In terms of offensive leaders, he is third in the nation in passing yards. He's only behind that of Jackson Dart and Cam Ward, who have both had tremendous starts to this season. But for Josh Hoover and his TCU Horned Frogs, I mean, this just overall has been a really, really good offense so far, led by him. The ground game hasn't really been able to find it quite yet. They're only averaging 3.3 yards per carry, but you take a look at a guy like Cam Cook, 174 yards and 4 touchdowns here on the season so far on 44 carries. He's been able to run the ball really well. Johnson's been able to run it well, and you got a couple other really good backs there in that backfield. But it all starts with Josh Hoover. It all starts with this passing attack, and that's my big first key here, is this SMU defense, for even as good as the secondary has shown it's been this season, are they going to be able to slow Josh Hoover down? It just seems like no matter what a defense throws at this TCU team, Josh Hoover has been able to deliver so far this season. You look at some of the wide receivers here. Jack Beck, who's had 350 yards through 3 games already, a couple touchdowns for him. You look at another guy like Savion Williams, who's had 3 touchdowns and 20 catches, 191 yards. Richardson has been just a phenomenal piece. You got so many other weapons in here. I mean, this is just a loaded TCU wide receiver room. At least they're proving to be that way so far this season. Again, I've already, not the last time I'm going to mention it, the play of Josh Hoover has been sensational, and the offensive line has been really good as well. They've been able to give Josh Hoover protection, a big reason why he has over 1,000 yards passing so far this year. But Josh Hoover, again, slowing him down is priority number one. You got to get that pass rush engaged. That secondary has got to be able to lock down on these wide receivers, because Josh Hoover so far, only 6 rushes for 7 yards, and I do believe that that sack yardage is included in there, being a loss of 11 yards and the 1 sack this year. Does have a rushing touchdown, but throughout this throughout the course of this season, at least so far, hasn't really shown his ability to get outside of the pocket and run that much. Now, that being said, I do think he has a little bit of it, but I think that a lot of TCU fans know good and well that Josh Hoover is going to be a guy that's going to sit back in the pocket and throw the ball. That is what he prefers to do. SMU's got to be able to create some pressure. The secondary's got to be on lockdown. And I think overall, TCU's going to look to try to make this thing a defensive slugfest. And I'll talk a little bit more about why when we take a look at this SMU offense, because the Ponies have really struggled on that side of the football in one very, very key position. Again, we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But they made the BYU game a defensive slugfest. Now, they couldn't come out on top of it. But if you're able to limit what Josh Hoover, this wide receiver room, and the offense can do, you try to make them win the game rushing the football. Look, you're going to have to key in on Cam Cook. He's a very good back, and if you limit Josh Hoover, well, that's going to give Cam Cook a big opportunity to have a really good game here. But you got to key in on Josh Hoover, key in on these wide receivers, make this one a defensive slugfest, force some turnovers, guys. You have forced 6 turnovers on the season so far. If you are the Pony defense, you're pretty good on third down. Your time of possession is not bad. Again, you probably want to get off the field a little bit more of an effective rate and not let Josh Hoover be on the field for as much as 30 minutes and 42 seconds here in this game. But for both of these sides, mainly for the TCU offense, limit the mistakes and win trench play. That also can be well applied to this SMU team too, because there have been a couple of times where, especially in the running game, but also you've seen this in pass coverage as well, where there have just been some missed assignments, some blown coverages, and things that have really cost SMU some points here in this game. But especially for TCU, if you can win the battle in the trenches, this offensive line can limit the pressure back to Josh Hoover. The offensive line can open up space for this run game to work, or I should say just getting a lot of weight off of Josh Hoover's shoulders. I think that's going to bode really well for this TCU offense. But let's now talk about some keys when SMU is on offense. And I mean, look, for the most part, this offense has looked really, really good so far this season. Okay, maybe not really, really good, but it has looked pretty good so far this season. You're getting a guy like Brashard Smith out of the backfield who's averaging over 7.2 yards per carry. He's running really well. You got another guy there out of that backfield in Johnson, LJ Johnson to be more specific, LJ Johnson Jr., who has 4.1 yards per carry. But again, Smith, I mean, over 250 yards, 7.2 yards per carry, 3 touchdowns. He's been running it really, really well. The wide receiver room, RJ Maryland, has been killing it out of the tight end position, and you have a ton of really talented wide receivers, Keyshawn Smith, Jake Bailey, Daniels, and so many other weapons that SMU can use. You probably want the wide receiver room and the pass catching room as a whole, maybe outside of RJ Maryland, who's been playing phenomenal, to take it a step up a notch. But I don't think that's all due in part to the wide receiver's fault. It's a lot of it has to do with they just haven't gotten great quarterback play so far this season. And whether it's Preston Stone or whether it's Kevin Jennings, SMU can have no quarterback controversy here in this matchup. They need consistent quarterback play. They need to be able to establish a rhythm at the quarterback position. They need to be able to find that rhythm, and they need to be able to find it on a consistent basis. They have a lot of really good offensive weapons. So whether or not it's Preston Stone or the way it's been recently, Kevin Jennings, you have to have some good, consistent quarterback play. I mean, both of these quarterbacks are right around the same passing yard mark, 342 yards for Jennings, 336 yards for Stone, but none of them have above a 60% completion percentage. Jennings only has 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Stone has 3 touchdowns and 1 pick, and Stone has been sacked all 3 times that this offensive line has allowed pressure back there. When they brought Kevin Jennings in, though, it did seem like throughout points there in that game, especially against Nevada, where they had to bring him in, against BYU, where the offense sort of got the spark that it needed. I think he's going to get the start here against the TCU Horned Frogs, although I'm not positive about that at all, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit to see Preston Stone get rolled out there as the starting quarterback, because I think when you compare the two, Preston Stone, I think, definitely has a higher ceiling than Kevin Jennings. But if Kevin Jennings is going to give you the offensive spark that you need to go with him, because this offense has got to find some rhythm. Yes, they're still averaging 34 points per game. Yes, they are still gaining over 400 yards per game. They're right around 6 yards per play here, but they've turned the ball over too much. The offensive line has not looked that great. And I mean, you take a look at even who they've played. They went and played a Nevada team that might not have the best season, but they're definitely, I think, going to shatter a lot of people's expectations of him this season, and a defense with Nevada that just overall is not that great. You blew out Houston Christian, and then BYU was a defensive slugfest game in which your defense held up their end of the bargain. Your offense really couldn't. That's something that's got to change for the SMU Mustangs here. But if you are the TCU defense, I mean, you got to be able to keep up what you've been doing, especially through the air so far this season and within your pass rush. The rush defense, I mean, you take a look at those numbers, they just simply have not been that great so far this season. And that's going to be a big key when you have to play a guy like Brashard Smith. But if quarterback play is there for the SMU Mustangs, it's all about finding that consistency and that rhythm because they have too many weapons. Does this SMU offense to not get some explosive plays and to not score their fair share of points against this TCU defense. But that rush defense has got to improve for TCU, and I think they have to get backfield pressure regardless. Keep the SMU turnovers coming is exactly what the Horned Frogs are going to want to think here in this game. They are coming in here thinking, hey, look, if we can make SMU turn the football over, if we can create pressure, if we can get the quarterback, whomever it may be, Stoner Jennings, on the ground early and often, we can create that pressure, limit what they're able to do in the pass game so we can really key in on the run and improving the defense that way. I mean, that's only going to bode well for TCU, guys. If they can win the battle on the line of scrimmage, it seems like I talk about it every video, but it really is so important and it's so vital in every football game. Pressure, especially within the pass rush, is going to help TCU win this game. But the SMU offense, Stoner Jennings, I don't care who it is, find some consistency, and it is going to lead SMU to have a better shot here to win this game. Let's now dive on into my prediction. Both of these teams currently sit at 2-1, and both of these teams, you just kind of have a feeling need a win badly. SMU lost a defensive heartbreaker a couple weeks ago to BYU. They're coming off a bye week again because they did play in week 0. And TCU, just a field goal that went wide and a comeback effort by UCF led the Knights to win that game against TCU in heartbreaking fashion. This is a game that both of these teams are going to want to win, not only for the pride in the rivalry, but to jumpstart and build some momentum for the rest of the season. A little bit of a weird kickoff time for this one, and a little bit of a weird channel as well. It's going to be broadcast on the CW network, so if you have that channel, I highly recommend tuning into this one because I do think it's going to be a fun matchup. But I'm going to go with the team that I've seen more consistent things from so far, and that is the way of Josh Hoover and the TCU Horned Frogs. I really do like this SMU team, and I think they can bounce back, and I think they can fare pretty well in ACC play once they get everything clicked together. And I don't think the SMU defense is going to have a bad day at all. I just think that Josh Hoover and company are going to be way too much for this SMU team to handle. I think the quarterback play starts to find a little bit of rhythm here in this game, but I do not think it will be enough to get past Josh Hoover. The way he's playing, the way this offense is clicking, TCU to me just looks really, really good. They're the favorite here. I mean, don't count out SMU, though. I was very close to picking the ponies here to win this game, but I am going with the quarterback that has shown us a little bit more this year. Josh Hoover will outlast SMU in a game that probably comes down to which team has the football last. Well, you see right there, I think that's going to be TCU. Let me know what you guys think about the battle for the Iron Skillet in the comment section down below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.